Welcome back. You're still watching The World Today on Channels Television. Well, it seems to also be a good Friday for the likes of the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, as prosecutors at the International Criminal Court have asked that his case be adjourned indefinitely. The ICC Chief Prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, said she did not have enough evidence to proceed with the trial, which was due to resume next month. However, she accused Mr. Kenyatta's government of failing to supply information she has requested. In his defense, Mr. Kenyatta denies organizing ethnic massacres after the 2007 election. Well, in other news, it seems to be a Friday for signing peace deals. But not only have Ukraine and pro-Russian rebels signed a deal, so have Mozambican president and the ex-rebel leader Afonso Lacama. President Guebuza hails the deal to end a low-level insurgency as a very important day for the Mozambican people. Mr. Lacama agreed, but also accused the government of intolerance. The head of Renamo, which fought the 1975 to 1992 civil war, says he will contest next month's elections. He's contested every poll since the civil war ended, but has always lost. Yesterday, Mr. Lacama flew into the capital, Maputo, accompanied by diplomats after a deal to end the conflict was agreed last month. After signing the deal, he said he hoped it could bring to an end the one-party state. Well, earlier on, I told you about the ICC suspending its case against the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta indefinitely. And for more information on that, I'm now being joined live via Skype by a former prosecutor at the ICC, Mr. Charles Adeogun Phillips, who is also right here in Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Phillips, on the program. Now, what does this mean for the trial of Mr. Kenyatta now that it's been adjourned indefinitely?
Well, it basically means that Mr. Kenyatta's trial has stalled. As you know, your case is only as good as your evidence. And if the prosecutor of the ICC does not have the required evidence to prosecute him, then the case has, in effect, terminated.
So would it be far-fetched to say that he's a free man now that there is no evidence against him?
By no means, he's not a free man. The indictment still...
Well, we seem to have lost connection with Mr. Adeogun Phillips there, but he is a former prosecutor at the ICC. We'll try to reconnect with him as we go on, but it's sad and almost shocking. Sexual abuse is a global threat. According to a report courtesy of the United Nations, about 120 million girls around the world, slightly more than 1 in 10, have been raped or sexually assaulted by the age of 20. The children's agency UNICEF says 95,000 children and teenagers, most of them in Latin America and the Caribbean, were murdered in 2012 alone. It notes that children around the globe are routinely exposed to violence, including bullying. And this type of violence cuts across boundaries of age, geography, religion, ethnicity, and even income brackets. It noted that while there had been growing recognition in recent years about the impact of violence against children, it largely remained underreported and undocumented. The report stressed that violence against children in some countries remains socially accepted or tactically condoned, and quite often victims were too afraid to report the abuse. Hence, many changes would need to be made to tackle this problem, and it would need to start from condemnation to prosecution. Well, we appear to have been able to reconnect with Mr. Charles Adeogun Phillips, who is a former ICC prosecutor. We hope you stay with us this time. Well, I just wanted to ask you, like I did before we lost connection, does this mean that the Kenyan President, Uhuru Kenyatta, is now a free man, knowing that there is no evidence against him?
No, he's not. He's by no means free. The prosecutor has not dropped the indictment. She hasn't withdrawn the indictment against him. And until she does that, he remains indicted before the International Criminal Court.
Finally, I'd like to ask you, what kind of precedents does this set for the ICC and for African leaders, you know, those who might have been summoned by the International Criminal Court? What does
Well,
this mean
the
for
unique
them?
feature of the International Criminal Court is that the court itself depends on the ability of the states that it's prosecuting to assist it in its investigations and prosecutions. And this is a very typical example of the difficulty of not having the cooperation of the state in that regard.
Thank you so much for joining us on The World today. I've been speaking with a former prosecutor of the ICC, Mr. Charles Adegun Phillips. Welcome back. You're still watching The World today on Channels Television. Well, yesterday was a very sad day for the comedy and fashion world as Joan Rivers passed on at the age of 81. Rivers had been on life support in Mount Sinai Hospital since having a cardiac arrest in New York last week. In a statement, her daughter Melissa shared that she died surrounded by family and friends, and she thanked hospital staff for their amazing care.
My day having a child was better. They knocked you out with the first pain. They woke you up when the hairdresser showed. You knew nothing. It was so much better.
The Queen of Comedy, Joan Rivers, died in New York on Thursday, September the 4th, a week after her heart stopped during an outpatient medical procedure at age 81. The comedian, who was known for a no-holds-barred brand of humor, had a lengthy career and most recently was host of cable television Channel E's Fashion Police, commenting on the unfortunate red carpet choices of Hollywood celebrities.
Are you kidding?
Sure, I mean, that's a brain, you know, a caring
no man
person.
has ever put his hand up a woman's dress looking for a library card.
The statement released by the late comedian's daughter reads, "It is with great sadness that I announce the death of my mother, Joan Rivers. She passed peacefully at 1:17 p.m., surrounded by family and close friends. My son and I would like to thank the doctors, nurses, and staff of Mount Sinai Hospital for the amazing care they provided for my mother." And the statement ends with, "My mother's greatest joy in life was to make people laugh. Although that is difficult to do right now, I know her final wish would be that we return to laughing soon." Moments after the statement was released, the tributes came pouring in.
She is fearless. She would come out and just say what you were thinking, but you wouldn't say it. You would stop, but she wouldn't stop. She would just say it. And a lot of people thought, you know, that her humor was mean and stuff like that, but she just did it because she wanted to make everyone laugh. That's the goal. And she could take a joke just as easily as she could dish it out. One of the classist acts, I love her so much, class act all the way. She hadn't been on The Tonight Show in, I want to say, over 26 years. Yeah. Since Johnny Carson, they just some dispute or something, and she hadn't been on, and we had her on late night and welcomed her back to the network, NBC, but we had her on our very first Tonight Show when I took over, and she hadn't, so I'm lucky to say that I got to work with her and have her on our Tonight Show, and I was just so blessed to do that. But we had this bit where at the beginning of the show I said to my friend out there who said I couldn't host the Tonight Show, "You owe me $100." And then I had a parade of celebrities come out and throw $100 on the desk, like De Niro, Tina Fey, you know, everyone did it. It was great. And Joan Rivers, we asked Joan to be one of the people, and she came out and she came over to me and she started crying and gave me a kiss. It was really emotional and really nice.
Comedian David Letterman also described her as one who had victimless jokes and was gutsy.
Talk about guts. And by the way, she was indefatigable. She would be on this show, she would be on all of the shows, and she would work about 300 dates a year. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of travel. And she would go out, and she was 81 years old out doing it. And funny today as she was when she first got into show business, and talk about guts. She would come out here and sit in this chair and say some things that were unbelievable. Yeah. Just where you would have to swallow pretty hard and twice. But it was hilarious, and she stood behind her jokes, and to my knowledge would say these things and never apologize, because she always felt, hey, I'm a comedian, these are jokes, There are no victimless jokes, and she was harder on herself than anybody, really. She would tell these god-awful jokes about herself. So she felt like, look, if I'm going to tell them about myself, then there are some other people out there that grow up. These are just jokes, ladies and gentlemen.
The fans were not left out.
She was a funny person that, you know, she made fun of herself. She had a lot of plastic surgery, but she made fun of herself. And, you know, I think that she was a decent human being, and she's going to be a legend.
She was a very strong woman. She knew what she wanted. She went after it. She got it. Worked to the day she died. Great woman.
I thought she's funny, very good looking. Always thought very good looking. I always looked up to her, you know. But yeah, as a character, really liked her personality. Thought she's very funny, you know.
That quick one-liner. I mean, she could just come out with it just like lightning bolts, you know. I mean, I'm gonna miss that, and yeah, it's like this is the day the Queen of Comedy passed away.
Fans and photographers alike took photos of the star, adorned with flowers, as well as the flower wreath placed by the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. In New York, fans of Rivers placed flowers in front of her Manhattan apartment building and gathered outside New York's Mount Sinai Hospital, where she passed away.
It's very sad indeed, but she lived a very long and successful life. Well, that's how we leave it on The World today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cynthia Are. Up next is Sports News.